Hello, everybody. How are you?
Okay.
Please have a seat.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Oops. Okay, so
Wait, let's move
one down.
Échate para allá.
One more.
Perfect. So we're going to do a shout out so everybody that is around comes here. Are you guys ready? This is happy hour around here.
Yeah.
So if you all can say this is happy hour starting in the main stage, come over. We'll get more people to come. Are you ready?
Nice.
1, 2, 3. Happy hour is starting at the main stage. Come over.
Woo!
Okay, we might get more people around here. I have 4 amazing Latinas. My name is Echeverria, and I work for Univision. I'll be starting a new gig pretty soon next week on Innovate Public Schools. So public schools can also be disrupted, but we're here to learn more about them. They're amazing, so if you have any questions or anything, please come on over and we'll get you engaged in the conversation. So why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourselves? What are you doing right now? And let's just start talking about what empowerment means to you as a Latina, as an entrepreneur, as an innovator. What empowerment means to you? Take it.
Hi, thank you so much. I'm Andrea Guendelman. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a new social media platform for Latino millennials called BeVisible. And so we are a career platform to connect Latinos to opportunities and to each other. What empowerment means to me is exactly what I'm able to do today, which is to have created a place in the internet, in the web, for us, a digital platform where Latinos can voice their own, voice their thoughts, their concerns, where they can be themselves, and where you really have an opportunity to express yourself freely with the things that you really you care about, and it will let you basically take you to the next stage of your career.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrea. Deldelp?
My name is Deldelp Medina. I'm the director at Code 2040 of the residency, and I'm really lucky to be able to work on entrepreneurs and residents across the US. So we work with tech CEOs of color and helping them get to the next step. I have a really hard time with this question, I'll be perfectly honest, in part because I think that the word empower connotes that you are disempowered, and that is not the space or place that I come to or from. I think that the question that, as I like to reimagine it, is, what is power to you? And I think power to me is culture and opportunity and those places where it gets to meet. Where we get to redefine culture on a daily basis or on a weekly basis or whatever basis you want, because culture is a living, breathing thing. It is not a monument. It is not a statue. It is a thing that we all get to co-create together. And that's what I think power is.
Wonderful. Thank you, Deldelp.
I was just here. I'm Lucienne Gigante. I have Access Latina, which is an accelerator for Latinas in STEM, social innovation, and agriculture. Animus, an economic development platform for Latinas. And Golden Seed's the largest angel investor in women. And empowerment, or empowering, for me, it means deciding your own destiny. Being able to actually be brave enough to make that choice, follow it through, and live that life that you decided to live.
Wonderful, thank you. And the last one.
I'm the last one of the spicy girls here. First of all, I want to say thanks to Wayne and Melinda.
Yeah.
Let's give them a big applause.
Yeah.
Bringing all of us together another year. I'm still waiting for my mojito, though. I'm Maica Hill. I'm the founder and co-organizer of the San Francisco International Women Entrepreneurs Forum, and I'm also the founder of Heroica. Heroica is a digital platform for women to connect based on what they're doing, and we're going to be actually launching by the end of the year. And if you're a woman and you're going to be naughty and find out what other women around the world are doing, please go to heroica.com and leave your email, and you will be part of our beta testers. After this tiny moment of marketing, I can say that the San Francisco International Women Entrepreneurs Forum is the biggest alliance of organizations with program initiatives and events for women entrepreneurs. And among our members, besides these amazing women that have been collaborating, and they're going to be collaborating in the future with me, we have Almas Negash. She's the founder of the African Diaspora Network. And I don't agree too much with the name of this panel, just like Deldelp was mentioning, because my friend Almas, she said to me once, you know, Maica, women, they don't need to be empowered. They were born empowered. The thing is that we are not able to exercise these powers because of religion, social issues, legislation. So basically what we need as women to do is actually start collaborating, getting to know each other, and actually educate each other about what we are doing, so we can actually inspire each other and move on and create new initiatives, because the world is full of opportunities for us right now, and it would be so sad if we don't start gathering together and actually creating things that we want to do.
So I actually want to follow up, because we have been discussing this in tech inclusion. So how do you include, how do you discover the power of others so as you go out there and you create your own initiatives? Did someone actually help you, or are you collaborating to be where you are? Are you pulling others up? Are you, it's just, what I'm trying to say, Deldelp was talking about culture. How do you be inclusive? How are you diverse? And how do you really accomplish things, including men? One of you was saying, like, I'm having an issue or I'm having a problem by including men into my development or what I'm doing, my initiative. So how can we be more inclusive? How can we embrace diversity and empower everybody, or not empower? If they're already powerful, just discover them and make them part of our initiatives.
Yeah, I think it's kind of very easy with, at least in the BeVisible community, because millennials, young people in this country, are essentially like multicultural and essentially inclusive. So I think the problem is with the older generations more than the younger generations. So I think that the issue is more like for our generation, Generation X, I would say, it's like, how do we become that we're kind of still running the world, or we're still in positions of power? How do we include basically from both sides? We have to include the mainstream. We have to become the mainstream, but it's a process that I don't know what comes first, the chicken and egg. We can't stay in silos. We are not let in. But at the same time, we have to let them. Maybe we have to let them in first, and then they let us in. I really don't have the answer. But I think the problem is with my generation, not with the younger generation.
Yeah. I think we're in the process of figuring that out, and I don't think that there is only one road. So this idea that there only has to be one way of doing this, I think, is a faulty idea. I think as I've traveled across the U.S. With Code 2040. The way things are done in Durham, North Carolina are very different from Detroit, are very different from Austin, are very different from Chicago and Minneapolis and here in San Francisco. And as a result of that, you have to honor the ways and spaces in which culture navigates. Having said that, I think that there are a lot of structural systems that have been created that I think at this moment in time are at a breaking point. And that this is a great opportunity for all of us to be able to get in there and actually fix these structural issues, or create brand new structures that have nothing to do with what's been done in the past. And that to me is what's exciting about technology, is that you have the ability to build something in a way that has never been built before, and be able to capture folks that have been underserved and unwanted or unrecognized, and that's the opportunity we really have with technology, is that we can hone in on a very specific demographic, or we can be huge generalists. Either way, there is a marketplace for it, both in ideas and in creating actual workable products.
Yeah, and the era of silos,
it's over.
Done. Let's start from.
But we still live in
there.
silos.
But it's
It really doesn't matter what type of demographic or culture. Collaborations drive growth, right? Drive success, or whatever we defined success as it is. So alliances are a crucial part of growth, of discovering or pivoting or listening. And it really doesn't matter whether you're a Latina or not a Latina, or it's really about inclusion and thinking differently and listening to other people's way, talking about of looking at things, and that's that path of where we're looking of growth. And it's really not about women versus men or one versus the other. It's how can we all together find a better solution to a specific problem or a specific situation or a specific pain, if we're talking about a product or a company, right? But coming back to the beginning, always look for alliances and collaborations. And sometimes it's just as simple as just ask. Write that email, ask for that advice, and probably they will give it to you, and you'll be very useful.
Let me change the question for Maica so she doesn't fall asleep. No, one of the things, because they have companies or they work for organizations that are, in case of Maica, that she's working with women. And so in order to be inclusive, so why work for, why really help other women, and then what happens to the rest? Or are you dividing the inclusion? Are you just, and in all of your cases, like Latinos versus non-Latinos, should we be more inclusive too? Or why do something for women that then will be inclusive? Or how do you address that issue, Maica?
Great question.
That's a very interesting question.
if you want to pass.
No, what I want to say is that I think that I'm not a talker, I'm a doer. So when I see that there's something out there that doesn't work for us, and even though this panel is Latinas, first of all, I'm a woman. I mean, you have noticed that, of course. But when I see Latinas, non-Latinas, the rest of the world, I see that what I was mentioning earlier, I think that we all have to collaborate. And a great example of this is this year I had the opportunity to look around and participate, actually, promoting and being one of the organizers of the America Summit. And this was quite a challenging experience for me, because for the first time we were doing something oriented to the Latino community, but at the same time I was also organizing a day that was extremely special, that was the International Women Entrepreneurs Day under the America Summit. And what I wanted is not only to give visibility to the Latinas that were in the room, but also give visibility to all the women around the world and see how Latinas can also get this visibility worldwide. So it's a win-win situation. And I think that we need to think a little bit more global, and because there are not only initiatives that are being created here for Latina that actually we can take to other parts around the world, but we can learn so much from other initiatives that are being created right now around the world and that can benefit our communities. If you are African American, if you are Latina, or if you are an alien.
So what I'm hearing, and it has to do with you, visibility. So when you do an effort to make women visible or make Latinas visible or make, that's what you're doing, is not excluding the rest, but you're making them visible to the others so they can collaborate. Can you expand on that?
I think that's exactly right. And I really love your question because I think it's a question that really, how do you expand? So you start with a niche. You have to start small, right? I mean, to have influence, to make a change. And I think any activist in the room might be able to vouch for what I'm saying, is that you start really small. You start with a group of people that you can have an influence on your community, and then you start growing. It's a movement, right? So we started, for example, BeVisible started with women. At the beginning, it was only women more or less of my age. You know, that was kind of the group I knew. Then we expanded to the 30-year-olds, the millennial. Then we expanded to men and women. Now we're expanding to men and women in colleges. Now we're also expanding to more people that are like interested in collaborating with the community, but they're not Latinos. Maybe we would like to expand to all diverse people in the country. But you start with something and you grow and you grow
and you create that movement from that first step.
Exactly.
Deldelp, can you tell us about the movement that Code 2040 is actually leading?
I'm going to do that, but I'm going to add on to something that you said, which I think also gives it a specific lens to this question. If you Google the word Latina, good luck. I mean, it's horrendous what it means to be Latina in this country if you were to Google images right now. It's sad and it's upsetting, and I specifically don't want my kid to grow up thinking of themselves in this narrow, stereotypical way. And so that when you're saying why this demographic versus that is, it's because we have a power and we get to define ourselves in a very different way now than before. We don't have to wait for a big media company to tell us who we are and what we're about. And so that's what's interesting and important about the work that all of us are doing, is that we get to redefine that, and that allows you to have a freedom to be a whole human being and not just a stereotype. So that's one piece of it. And in terms of the work at Code 2040, what's exciting to me is that I get to work with founders that are Black and Latinx across the US that are creating tech products that they see as needed. And as a result of both their experiences of who they are and where they come from, what their skill sets are, their education, you see things that are very different from a stereotypical product that comes out of Silicon Valley. And that's exciting to me, because that means to me that we're also in this place where we are taking our power in terms of our skill sets and abilities to create products for ourselves by ourselves. And that means that tech products, as we know them, will change drastically. The reason Code 2040 is called Code 2040 is because in 2040, this country will be very, very different. And that is exciting. And I think that we're on the verge of that moment right now. I think that the political situation in which we're all held hostage under right now shows you that the road will be crunchy for a while before it gets smooth, but we're all going to smooth it out together. I mean, there is no doubt in my mind that as we're looking at this demographic shift, it is also a great economic opportunity for us to have true ownership in this country, and that one of the ways and spaces and places in which we can have ownership in this country is by being owners of our own businesses, being the own founders of our own businesses, meeting the needs of our own customers, that has nothing to do with pattern matching a stereotype that's been created by someone else.
Yeah, wonderful. And Lucienne, I want you, clap.
I love when Deldelp talks about ownership, because I think she does it so well, and I love it.
No, and I'm hearing visibility, defining ourselves, not letting others to define us. And Lucienne, can you talk also, you were talking to me before we come on stage about the role of women and why you're empowering or giving visibility to women entrepreneurs. So,
at the end of the day, it's really about numbers and opportunities, right? It's not about hope. It's a hope, but at the end, it needs to make economic sense. So investing in women's economic development and growing their companies and scaling their companies makes economic sense for any country. Because what's happening now is only 4% of VCs are investing in women-owned companies. We're opening 1,200 businesses a day, contributing 97 billion, right, to the economy, yet where's the scale? Where are these multi-million-dollar women-owned businesses? And when I talk about women-owned businesses, I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% women-owned. Partnerships. Golden Seeds defines it as 20% women-owned, but a woman needs to be at the table making the decisions in collaboration with men and others. But we find more and more that not in government or in the companies or in the boards, we are not sitting at the table where the decisions are made. So that's why we need to concentrate more in what are the gaps that need to be filled to get more women, more diversity, making the decisions that at the end will be best for the economy, for everyone.
I just want to add something that she's saying. Also, I think that we also deserve to challenge the current system and process for women to get access to capital. Because let's think about the history of the funding and VCs here, around here. Anyway. If we think about it, this process was created for, and excuse me, my apologies for what I'm going to say next, for guys that were in a dorm drinking Red Bull and wearing shorts. Look at us.
I look cute in shorts.
We want mojitos.
And the truth is that if we want to bring more women into entrepreneurship and actually tell them, and yes, you can get funding, we actually need to push. With all our initiatives and all of us and our work, we're trying to change how we are perceived as well as entrepreneurs. And by doing so, we're also challenging how things are being done. So in the recent years, we're starting to see more women that are saying, oh, I'm going to go with crowdfunding. Other people are starting to say, oh, look, equity crowdfunding, this could be an option for me. Other women are saying, I'm going to get into this group that give loans. The thing is that many women are starting to gather together and trying to redefine the ways of access to capital. So I will ask all of you in the audience to come later, talk to us, inspire us, so we can continue working and doing everything that we're doing, but at the same time, you can help us as well to challenge how things are being done right now.
I have to answer this question, this thing too, because, I mean, we see it in the presidential election. You have Hillary Clinton, I mean, I don't care what is your she had to prove 100,000 times her worth, versus someone that doesn't have to prove anything. So what is our situation as women entrepreneurs or as women anything is just the situation of women in the world. And
which is, I think, your point of alternative modes of funding is the way that it's going to go. I don't believe in the current paradigm is a paradigm that works for us. The numbers are low, and they're low on purpose. So that rather than trying to chase a carrot that's not made for you, go get your guayaba. You know what I mean? Go get some mangoes. Go find your fruit or vegetable of choice. You don't have to eat a carrot if you don't want one, and if you want to go chase that, but be very clear what you're chasing after. And I think that's the problem with pattern matching is that you want to mold yourself into something that you can't. I mean, I think I spent most of my 20s trying to be a dude, and that's not possible. Because I thought, oh, if I do this, and if I act this way, and if I am this way, then they'll accept me. And the reality is that was wasted effort, time, and energy. There was no reason for that. We are enough, and you have to know who you are, where you come from, and what your abilities are. And once you know that, good luck stopping you.
So what's your vision? What's going to happen from where we are to where we're going? What's your vision? And where do you want to, where do you want to be in 10 years? How the future looks for all of us in 10 years? Or how would you like that to look?
Well, first of all, I think that the future is extremely bright for diversity and for people of color, for people that are doing, that are working in this space. I think there's going to be a huge amount of influx.
Yeah.
Because even though the venture capitalists are behind right now, the companies are not.
Yeah.
Companies and brands are understanding that we have a tremendous amount of power, and they will be increasingly desperate to connect with us, to fund us, to want to work with us in creative ways. So I am extremely hopeful that all our efforts here are going to be, and I don't know who else is working in startups or whatever, they're going to be well-funded. It's going to be an asset class that will have extreme amounts of money and resources. You just need to have a little bit more patience.
Yeah.
Now that's the U.S. Is that going to happen?
That's the U.S. No, I'm talking about the U.S. I live in the U.S.
Yeah.
I have a crazy idea.
Oh. Sign me up.
Let's say that we, Melinda, I don't know where you are, but I'm shouting this out to you. Probably later you're going to kill me, but anyway. Let's say that we gather again here next year, and we will show to all of you how we have been actually not only talking in events, but actually doing different things for the community. And we're going to create some kind of presentation where anyone that is here in the audience with us today can join us in this crazy journey. Carolina's going to be providing the mojitos. And we will present it next year.
Yeah.
We will show you the journey and how we are not only just talkers, but we're doers, and how we are actually trying to bring more women and give visibility to our communities. What do you think about it? Yes?
Yes, okay.
There you go. Sign me up, you say.
I'll sign up. I'll do it.
Lucienne, how do you see the future?
The change is going to, when it starts, it's going to be fast.
Yeah.
Because somebody's going to figure out, they already done it, that when you have women as part as the leadership team and as the head, companies perform better. And diversity companies perform better. And then you're going to start seeing more investments in women-owned companies, growth, visibility, and all that combined, what it's going to create is profit margins for owners, for funds. And when that starts to happen at a faster rate, then is when the wave, you start surfing the wave. And then we're talking about cultures that are changing, that there's no more silos, or that fear of it's wiped away. So it's going to be a tsunami type of change very quickly.
Okay.
How
do we ride the tsunami? How do we make sure we're part of that movement? How do we get included?
You're part of the conversation, and you're part of the action, more importantly, than the conversation. And you make an effort of looking for that talent, of promoting that talent, and of actually buying the products, looking at the companies, and making sure that your investment and your time is in companies that promote diversity, that have women they don't have to be the CEO, sometimes they are, sometimes they don't, but that the diversity is at the table, and that will really result in economic growth, in complete change of communities. We can even go through sometimes eradicate poverty in some areas. We can even go that far ahead.
And I want to add that in another conference, somebody said, just realize that we're all investors. You are an investor. You have the power to invest in whatever you want. If you have a savings account, that savings account can be an investment in impact social projects that are women behind or that are doing something good. So we all have the capacity to be an investor. So let's stop thinking a bit about those big investors and let's become community investors and invest in whatever we believe in with authenticity. So, look at what's out there that you want to be part of because we can. Did you have something, Deldelp?
I would just say, my vision was always a room like this. 5-6 years ago, when I got started in this journey around diversity and inclusion, And it was crickets. It'd be like I'd go to the meetings and people would take out their phones. It'd be like, everything's fine. Silicon Valley is a meritocracy. We're good. Money's being made. Don't know why you want to rock the boat. And so that I think of spaces and places like this and many others that people are creating as a way of saying, like, this room is only going to get bigger. And that all of you that are here, like, that's my vision, is that all of you find your own power to be able to create the products and see the change that you want to see, but that you have to be invested in yourself first, and that you have to know who you are and where you come from to be able to amplify that. Without it, it's just, we're going to be rickety patulecos, you know, like not quite walking right? So it's like, we're going to have instabilities that are unneeded. And so that I would say that when you invest in yourself first, that alone counts. And I think that so often we think of others in your community as a way of serving, when you should be thinking of how do you serve yourself first to be able to see the change that you want to see, to be able to model the change that you want to see. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to, we're not going to be able to really own our power until then.
So I'm going to give the power of words to you guys. If you can find one word that is your favorite word right now that really exemplifies that movement or that power or what you're doing, and just tell us, the word, and if you want to describe a little bit of why mojitos,
Yeah, I know. I was waiting for that.
Tell us why. So the power of words, one word that is your favorite word that really exemplifies or that really excites you about this movement, and if you want to explain it a little bit, anybody can go ahead.
Latinx, which is our new word of describing the inclusive Latino community, but also inviting everybody else. Maybe Latinos, not Latinos, everyone that identify with the struggle. But I also want to say that what Del said about, and this is part of getting to know ourselves too, and our identity. We're all different, but we have, for example, the discussions that we've been having at BeVisible. We might be all different type of Latinos, but discussions are like, ¿y tú quién te crees? Who you think you are? These are discussions about where we come from, all these things that are holding us back. So until we're not able to collectively, get over the traumas we have, and I think our ability to empower ourselves is limited. I totally agree with Del.
Great. Favorite word?
Oh, my word. 2 words, think big. I think we need to find those big ideas and start small, but think big. We need to find in Access Latina, where are those high growth potential Latinas? How can what are the pain, and how can I use the tech-enabled businesses to scale? Because sometimes we just think too small, and that vision alone will drive the north. So think big.
Right.
2 words.
No, I'm just going to say, allow yourself to be uncivilized.
Oh, I like that.
Which means go back to the roots, to your own nature. We have many accessories, but when you become a little bit uncivilized, you are like, I'm going back to my own nature. And sometimes we have become so extremely politically correct that we are forbidden even ourselves to be creative, to enjoy, to have fun, to challenge each other and actually question each other. So please be uncivilized.
And really, I think that a lot of times we ask for advice, or the mentors or the sponsors tell us, and people are so nice to you that they don't tell you the truth. And it's like, what I need is really be nice, but tell me the truth. You suck, or you're doing this wrong. But if we don't tell each other the truth, then who is going to do it? Yeah. So really be honest with each other, kindly, but be honest. Just say what you really think about what you're experiencing. Otherwise, we don't learn from each other. So thank you, Maica.
Absolutely.
Lucienne, you already said think big. Deldelp.
Deldelp. I hate choosing one word because I'm a multisyllabical kind of person. But I would say that it's ownership. What is it that you're going to stake ownership in? And really finding that entry point in which you really feel that you own something. So whether you're working at a company right now and it's a project that you've decided my boss didn't tell me I'm the owner of this, but I'm going to make myself the owner of this, and I'm going to make sure that everybody else knows. Or whether you start your own company or you have a side hustle or 3 side hustles, that you really own these things, you know? That you own your pain, but you also own your joy. That when you have true ownership, you are able to move in a way that otherwise it's this associative, it is unreal, and you never really get to bring your power into it.
Mm-hmm. Any closing thoughts? We have 3 more minutes. Any closing?
I think that it's important to surround yourself with people that you feel comfortable with. And from the very beginning, for example, I surrounded myself with people like Dale and others here in this room, and even Melinda and Wayne. I mean, so this is like this finding people that are nice, you know. You can be nice in business and still succeed, you know. There is possible. Like, we have to just surround ourselves with the nice people and hope for the best.
And the best does happen.
Yeah.
Any closing thinking? So we'll change the title for sure.
Yes.
We'll meet again next year.
Yes,
That's
for
the second
sure.
thing. And we'll have more inclusiveness, so you guys can come up and also share your thoughts and your ideas and your experience.
I have one thought. Stop thinking about it. Do it.
Yeah.
Okay? And join us. And take this conference as an opportunity to get to meet so many people that can help you out or can inspire you and open doors for you. So, you know, do it.
Yeah. I also heard a lot of alliance, collaboration. You know, don't be afraid to ask. They might say no, but they have someone. Be disruptive and then ask. Ask the ones that been there, that they can connect you with someone else. So do it and then ask and invite others. Invite those that are nice, that can join you. So don't feel like, oh my God, I have to wait until I have the full idea. No, start, and go for it. So, Del? Or Lucienne?
Go ahead, Lucienne.
Apply to Access Latina.
Well,
You know any Latinas who are owners of their own company, 20%, that are in STEM, social innovation, agriculture. We are offering more than $150,000 in capital and resources and mentorship just to accelerate your business. And I heard earlier today that accelerators are the cheapest funding you're going to get. But it's not only funding, it's mentorship, it's that those key help that you need at those early stages. So accesslatina.org, shameless plug. And as Access Latina, there are many others available. Women-led, not women-led, so just collaborate, find out, look up the resources, because investing in women and in startups are, I think, a key of unlocking economic growth.
Well, then I'm going to plug mine, too.
Yeah.
So Code 2040, we're in our call for entries process right now. It ends this Friday, and we're looking for entrepreneurs and residents across 8 cities in the US. So go to the Code 2040/entrepreneur and find out about that. But the last thing I would say is, like, I'm hugely grateful to everybody that's on the stage and everyone that's here, because I think this is what drives me, that when there's moments of, my God, the work that we're doing is really hard, of trying to change the way that the tech industry thinks about us and considers us. It's not easy work, but it's always wonderful to be in community and to be able to see all of you and get to know you and be inspired by the work that you do. It just chips away at it in a way that sometimes you feel really lonely of, like, why are we doing this? So it's lovely to be here. So thanks to Wayne and Melinda and the whole crowd at Tech Inclusion for having us here.
So thank you all for coming. A big applause for these amazing women. And please do catch them up on the way out.
Yes. All right.